We are here to predict no less than 19 matches. What's going on? Welcome to the Triple P, the 3-show prediction stream live on a Thursday, 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. We are here as promised. Good to see you guys. Man, we got a lot to get into. We are here to predict this Saturday's AEW All-In, also this Saturday night's main event, and this Sunday's Evolution. The only show we're not going to bother talking about is NXT Great American Bash because I don't give an ever-loving fuck what happens on that show that's going head-to-head with AEW All-In. But the other 3 shows are slightly more important. Tito, get out of here. And that's what we're going to be here to predict today. Now, I have a total of 19 matches that I'm going to be talking about here, spanning All-In, Evolution, and Saturday night's main event. However, I have a feeling we're probably missing anywhere from 2 to 4 matches here because as of yet, I don't think anything's been announced for the 0 hour at All-In. And right now with Saturday night's main event, we currently only have 3 matches advertised. Drew and Orton, Rollins and Knight, and of course Gunther and Goldberg. So I have a feeling we're going to get one more there. Maybe AJ and Dominic. I don't know what's going on with those two and Dom's injury. Whatever they add to Saturday night's main event will have to be added, I guess, tomorrow on SmackDown. You know, I know there's a tag title match. I don't know what else they're going to chuck on there. Please let me know in the comments if you have any ideas what they could add to Saturday night's main event, because if Goldberg and Gunther is going to be a 4-minute match, you're going to have to put maybe 1 or possibly even 2 more matches on Saturday night's main event. So we're probably going to be missing a match or 2 here on All-In and Saturday's main event in our predictions. But for the most part, I've got all the matches written down here, and I think I'm only really struggling to decide a handful of them. Everything else I feel relatively confident on, and it should be fun talking about that. So I hope you guys are having a great Thursday afternoon. Thank you for being here. I actually forgot to put up this link. I put up the entire weekend links, all of our festivities for the weekend, and then last night I'm like, holy shit, I never put up tomorrow's predictions stream link. So I went ahead and threw that up pretty late last night. And sorry about the delay on that, but we got a lot of stuff coming your way this weekend. We're going to be here for all of it. The first thing we're going to be doing on Saturday is I am going to be doing a watch-along for AEW All-In. I'm going to give it a shot. It's noon for me here on the West Coast, but I'll be up, I'll be fed and breakfasted and lunched and all that stuff, and we'll be ready to rock for what should be about a 4-hour show on Saturday. Then we're going to get about an hour break, and it's time for Saturday night's main event. Now, I'm not going to be doing a watch-along for Saturday night's main event. I'm going to pause after All-In, and I'm going to watch Saturday night's main event, and then we're going to come up after and do a review of the entire show. This will also give us an opportunity to elaborate a little bit more on All-In. I'm sure we'll stick around after All-In and give a small, kind of informal review on the show, but then we'll stop. I will stop and watch Saturday night's main event, and then we will be back up live after the show to give it a full review. And then on Sunday, we'll do a watch-along again. We'll be back for a Evolution watch-along. We'll also stick around for a review. So keep that in mind for the weekend. All 3 of these links are up on the channel right now, so you can check those out. And yeah, it's going to be a crazy, crazy weekend. So I'm going to make sure I get all my rest tomorrow because Saturday is going to be a long day. Saturday's going to be a real long day, but that's kind of what we live for on this channel. I'm really looking forward to All-In. I think with All-In, everything is going to hinge on the outcome. You can have 5-star matches all day long on All-In. Nothing is going to matter if you have Mercedes beat Toni Storm and Moxley retains. If those 2 things happen, you're going to see nothing but "I'm done with AEW" tweets all over social media. Even if every single match is a 5-star match, that's the response it's going to get. However, if you flip those 2 outcomes and you have Tony win and beat Mercedes and you have Hangman dethrone Moxley, all of those "I'm done with AEW" tweets will turn into "this is where the best wrestle." And that's what Tony Khan needs to realize here. It doesn't matter your match quality. It doesn't matter how many holy shit or "this is awesome" chants you get. Fans have a very simplistic way of looking at things, especially when they are staring down the barrel of an outcome that they really, really want. And I think 100% of the wrestling fans right now wants Hangman Page to win the championship. And if for any reason he does not, that's going to be a problem. Tony, are you listening? that is going to be a problem. So a lot is hinging on outcomes alone. Not every pay-per-view is like this. Sometimes the outcomes don't really matter. This is one where I think everything is going to hinge on that. It doesn't matter how good the show is, how hot the crowd is. They can give us everything in the world. They can give us the greatest pay-per-view of all time. But if you have those wrong winners in there, it's going to backfire. So I think Tony Khan needs to do the right thing here and send the fans home happy, for fuck's sake. This Moxley storyline is not the Bloodline. So stop doing Bloodline finishes. Let's have a good one here. Let's have a WrestleMania 40 style finish with everybody and their mothers interfering in this thing and Hangman winning the title in front of the biggest house AEW is going to see all year and their biggest show all year. And I just can't see them being crazy enough to do it any other way. So we will see, but Saturday's All In, it could be a game changer for the company, because WWE is stockpiling shows, 3 of them, count them, all around All In, and now it's AEW's job to outshine all 3 of those WWE shows that are put there to, control, the online chatter and whatnot. So hopefully Hangman winning and us getting a really, really solid pay-per-view there will, make everything WWE's doing feel a little bit less important, even though WWE's trying to kind of bury all of the chatter about All In with all of their chatter about Goldberg. So I feel like the pressure is on WWE because they have put 3 shows here surrounding All In, and if all 3 of them shit the bed, if Goldberg tears his ACL when he's walking out to the ring, and that whole thing is a complete fucking disaster, Evolution is, just kind of a flat feeling show in front of 5,000 people, and of course NXT Great American Bash, I haven't even looked at that card, I don't care. This is a chance for AEW to say, hey, we may be the number 2, but we know what we're doing over here. So hopefully we will get a decent pay-per-view, and hopefully, honestly, we get great shows out of all 3. That's what we're here to do. We're here to watch wrestling. I'm not rooting for a bad Saturday Night's Main Event or Evolution or All In. I want all 3 shows to be great. That way, at the end of the weekend, I can kick back and say, well, that was fucking fun. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. That's the only thing I really want at the end of the day. So, anyway, we're going to get into all of the predictions here. We're going to start with AEW All In. Before I do that, let me cruise over here to the chat. On this beautiful, according to my computer, 81-degree day. It's hot as shit outside, and my air conditioning is not on. But I got fans and windows open, and I ain't sweating yet. So wherever you are, I hope you're having a great summer. Let's see here. Who we got? Jay Lambo is in the house. Good to see Melissa Hernandez. We got Michael Kumo, Jacob A. Tatanani is here. We got Jacob. Spencer Dunnings. We have David Brown, Garrett Osborne, Zach Palgett, Mark. Good to see you. Hope all is well with you too, my friend. We have John Woodmass. Nice. Amazing. Dexter Slots. Oh, thank you. Jimmy and Solo have been added to main event. Thank you for that. I was looking at the card just like an hour ago. I did not see that match. Is that true? Can we confirm that? I'll throw that on my list here. Transferring Heat. Anybody else chiming in? I know it's a Thursday afternoon random time, and I didn't even put the link up until late last night. So anybody who is here with us, thank you so much for being here. Let me just try to get a little bit of a confirmation on this. Has WWE officially announced this Jacob and, the Solo and Jimmy match for Saturday night's main event? I'm not seeing a match graphic anywhere on their social media. But that would make sense that Jimmy and Solo would be added. Something's got to be added. Yeah, I'm still not seeing it, but I'll kind of take your word for it on that one. Oh, okay, there it is. I see it. Okay, yeah, so it does appear that Jimmy Uso versus Solo Sikoa for the United States title has been added. Oh, yeah, WWE has... Oh, okay, so they don't have a match graphic, but it's... Nick Aldis announced that, looks like a few hours ago, but I somehow missed it. All right, cool. Let me just type in Jimmy and Solo here real quick. Jimmy, let's go Solo versus Jimmy. Just typing that in my notes there, so I already know who I'm going to predict in that. It's going to be Solo to retain. All right, there we go. Thank you for that. I was curious what was going on. I did not see a 4th or a 5th match added or advertised yet for Saturday night's main event, and I somehow missed that announcement from SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis earlier today. So thank you so much for that. Good to see everybody here. Do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. All super chats will be answered later on. Memberships are open as well, so feel free to have fun with that. And without further ado, why don't we get into our predictions here? I got to step away for 2 seconds. There we go. Just fixing that. I wanted to turn my fan towards me because I'm hot as hell. All right. So we are going to start with AEW All In live this coming Saturday from Globe Life Field. And this goes live at 3 Eastern, 12 noon Pacific. So like I said, we're going to be here on Saturday. I work nights, so my mornings kind of get a lot of late starts. Noon is usually a little too early for me to do a watch along, but I'll be fine. I'm going to get up. I'm going to pound some orange juice. I'm going to have some breakfast, and I'm going to get myself energized for a very, very long day in front of the camera on Saturday. And I'm looking forward to this show. This really looks good. I think of the three, I think all-ins that they've done, right? Or the two Wembley ones and then this one. This one looks the best to me on paper. I know the other ones were great and they had their moments and whatnot, but I remember that first one, it felt like the build was kind of taken forever. Like they kind of threw it together at the last minute. And this feels like a lot of things have been going down a road to culminate here. And I think that's what the show needs to be. This needs to be like their WrestleMania. This is going to be the show every year annually that is going to draw their biggest card, or their biggest crowd, I should say. That's where the biggest things should go down. That's where your top title changes and, all your storylines that take you into your next chapter should be. And it feels like this is really set up that way. So I'm looking forward to this. And also, like I said, they're probably going to announce a match or two for the 0 hour, but the main card only has 8 matches, I think. Or is it 9? 1, 2, 3. No, it's 9. Fuck. 1, 2. No, it's 8. It's 8. So unless I'm missing one here, help me out as we're going through the predictions. If you're like, oh, Greg, you forgot this or that, let me know. But I've only got 8 matches for the main card here, which is good because I think the last pay-per-view went a little bit too long. I've always kind of, made fun of fans who whine about long shows, but I'm not going to make fun of fans who whine about 5-hour long shows. I think 4 hours is fine. But when you go into 4.5, and then you start approaching 5, and then when you add your kickoff shows, you're approaching 6, that is too much. I will agree with the fans there. But I think 4-hour pay-per-views are just fine, and AEW has done a great job ever since a couple of years ago. I think Double or Nothing 2022, when I was there in Vegas, of course, I was having a blast. I didn't give a shit how long the show was, but a lot of people were talking that night about how long it was. And ever since then, it feels like AEW's been doing a pretty good job of managing their time where these pay-per-views aren't going so long. They might have a fuck ton of matches on there, but they're getting them all done in a block of 4 hours. Well, last time that didn't really work out. It went over. It was considered too long. Happy to see we only have 8 matches here because Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada are going to give us 30 minutes. They might give us 40 minutes. They've already had a couple of Broadways. They've had 60-minute jobs. They've had some amazing matches, probably the greatest series of matches you will ever find in the history of the business between these two guys. So there ain't no way this is going to be a 14-minute match. We're going 35. We're going 40 minimum. Minimum. So that, and plus what we're going to see in the main event, I'm sure is going to go a solid 30 minutes, if not more as well. So sounds like they're planning on, if they're going to have long matches, that they're not going to kind of mismanage the time the way they did last time. Having Adam Cole come out for his match after we've already had 9 matches, shit like that. So sounds like this might be, a little bit easier of a watch with only 8 matches, and they're all probably going to be pretty good. Why don't we start with a match that I don't know too much about, the women's gauntlet match? We don't really know who's in this other than, I believe, Chris Statlander did qualify, right? So they're not really announcing their participants here. And of course, in a gauntlet, it's the first fall wins. So it's the opposite of the Royal Rumble, or a battle, or Royal Rumble, I guess, where you want to be the last one in, or maybe even the casino thing. No, because whoever grabs the thing wins there too. So you want to come in early as opposed to late here. So the earlier you are, the better chance you have of winning. I like the idea of Chris Statlander winning. I like the idea of Willow Nightingale winning. I like the idea of Megan Bayne winning. So I'm probably going to go with one of those 3. Also, are we going to see any surprises here or in the men's match? It was funny, just half an hour ago, I was thinking about some of the WWE released wrestlers like Dakota Kai and whatnot. And I'm like, who might be good for this? Shayna Baszler. I'm like, I wonder if her 90-day would be up Because I couldn't remember the deal with her either. Was she released or was she told her contract wasn't going to be renewed? So if her contract wasn't going to be renewed, she's not going to have a no-compete. So anyway, I just looked up Shayna Baszler to find out when she was released, and I saw that she was at NXT this week being tried out as a producer. So that's great. Good for her. She's a little bit older. I'm not sure, how much she could really offer in an in-ring career, signing another 5-year deal with a company or whatnot. And AEW bringing her in would be cool to see, but I wasn't sure what she could really do there. So the fact that I saw that she's already back in WWE, being tried out as a producer, I really, really hope that works out for her. I do. I think she'd be good at it, not knowing too much about her, but I feel like she put enough time in WWE and NXT. And I really hope that works out. So in terms of surprises, I'm not sure of the women in WWE who have been recently released that Tony Khan would think enough to bring in. We've heard reports and rumors that AEW doesn't really want to go crazy on signing the ex-WWE talent anymore. They've been burned a couple of times there, so they're going to be a little bit more selective with who they bring in, and they're not just going to sign them to sign them. TNA had a big problem with that. When I first started my channel here, that was one of my biggest issues with them. Is that they had so much homegrown talent that the fans have grown to support, or AJ Styles and your Bobby Roodes and your Abysses and all these guys, that the fans really got behind, that were the core of TNA. And every single one of them fellas had to take a back seat to somebody coming in from the WWE, whether it be Rob Van Dam or Jeff Hardy or Booker T or who the fuck ever. Anytime WWE guys would come in, not only would they be signed, they would be given the world title. And I thought that was really unfair to your TNA, core and your backbone of that company. It's what took WCW down. Some of those guys, the backbone, the Eddies, the Benoits, the Malenkos, the Jerichos, they left. They were the backbone. And, I don't think that AEW wants to get in that business. So if there's a women's wrestler out there that you would say, oh my God, you have to bring her in, don't just sign them to sign them. Bring them in if fans actually want to see them. If you can bring in a Dakota Kai, a Tegan Nox, or whoever the hell else is out there available, if you brought them in, would there be a point to it? If you brought them in, wouldn't you think that person would have to win? And I think there's enough good women right now on the AEW roster to have one of them win this thing and receive that championship shot. Now, another thing I need you guys to clarify for me in the chat, because I don't know. The winner of this, is this a cash in at any time situation? What happens here? I'm sorry that I don't know this. Or if it's a pick your spot, whatever it is. But when you think about the women's division, who's not already in matches and who could be in this thing and who I think would be the best possible person to win it, I have no idea. So I'm going to go the big, the bad, the beautiful Megan Bayne to win. I think she already had that one match with Toni Storm where she really took her to the limit. And if Toni Storm does retain over Mercedes, I could see that match happening again. So maybe I'm going to go Megan Bayne. I'm not confident, but I'm going to say Megan Bayne to win the women's Casino Gauntlet, unless we get some big surprise, some woman that I'm not thinking of, but I'm going to go Megan Bayne there. The men's Casino Gauntlet. Again, we don't know too many of the entrants here other than Mark Briscoe coming in at number 1, MJF coming in at number 2. The two of them had a talk last night on Dynamite, and yes, they did bring up Jay Briscoe. I knew they would. And also, Mystico is in this thing. Now, we saw MJF show up in MLW to attack Mystico. Their issue is still ongoing. This is going to culminate somewhere in a match in Mexico for CMLL, I'm sure. I feel like Mystico and MJF are going to cancel each other out here. I feel like if MJF wasn't in the middle of this feud with Mystico, then he would be my pick to win this, because the whole point of him joining up with the Hurt Syndicate is for him to have, unstoppable backup with him that would ultimately make him a shoo-in or a guarantee to win the championship. But with Mystico and everything going on there, and MJF already kind of getting the better of him a couple of times, unmasking him and then attacking him in MLW, I feel like there's got to be a little bit of revenge here, and I think Mystico will wind up not costing, but preventing Max from winning this gauntlet. So who does win the gauntlet? I don't know who else is in it. I feel like we could see some surprises. This could be a situation where it's a surprise. Big name on my list, Eddie Kingston. How is he doing? I have no idea. I know he tore 19 ligaments in both of his knees a while back, and he's been rehabbing that. I don't know what his prognosis is or how close he is to returning, but man, that pop. That pop if Eddie comes out there. Also, what about Pac? He hurt himself pretty badly. I remember that injury was bad, but I don't remember when it was, and I don't remember how long it's been. It's been several months, I think. So perhaps Pac could be on his way back. What about Jay White? What about Jay White and the Ass Boys and the Juices? Where are they? I know Jay White was kind of hurt too. So if Eddie, Pac, or Jay White are anywhere near close enough to return, I would love that. I don't know who to pick here. I have no idea who to pick because I really just don't know who all is in the match. It could be Darby Allin. It definitely could be Darby Allin, but I really hope, that would worry me. I don't want it to be Darby Allin because if Darby Allin wins the men's gauntlet, what that tells me is that Mox would win. And again, help me out with the gauntlet. Do they get the title shot right away? Why don't I know this? So it's just a guaranteed championship shot. It's not cash in whenever you want, right? They get a title shot in London. When the fuck is that? Is it okay if we just kind of do a little bit of research right here midstream? Here, because I had AEW's site pulled up right here earlier, and I feel like AEW's site would certainly tell me about this. All right. Okay, guaranteed world title shot, but it doesn't say when. Okay, so it doesn't sound like it's a cash-in situation, right? For that. So if it's not a cash-in situation, that's better. But if it was, and you had Darby Allin come out and win this thing, he could essentially, come out in the main event and cash in and win? I don't know would the fans be happy or not happy about that? Think about that. Everybody is so focused and fixated on Hangman Page winning the championship. What if Darby came down WrestleMania 9 style and maybe Mox beats Hangman and then challenges Darby right there, and then Darby gets in the ring and beats him? Darby's been off of TV for so many months. He left. He'd be world champion right now if he didn't want to climb a fucking mountain, and he chose to do that instead. He's the only guy that would rather do other things than be world champion. And you've got arguably one of your faces of the company in there with Moxley right now and Hangman Page, obnoxiously over with the audience, taking that away from him to give to Darby. Is that something that the fans would really like to see? I would say no. But Darby winning would also, kind of give him a title shot right back when he comes in the door. But I don't feel like that's necessary for Darby. I'd rather have somebody else win the men's gauntlet because I think Darby can get a title shot without that men's gauntlet. Especially, if Darby shows up and he plays the role of The Undertaker at WrestleMania 40, delivering that choke slam to The Rock. I actually think Sting might actually play that role. But having Darby come out there as well as being the final nail in the coffin for Jon Moxley, I'd rather see that than Darby winning the men's gauntlet. So I'm going to go with... Oh man, who do I just wish I could see like a list of who is on this. What's Takeshita doing? Man, I don't know who to pick to the men's gauntlet's impossible to predict. So I'm going to predict Eddie Kingston to win the men's gauntlet. I'm going to predict Eddie Kingston to win the men's gauntlet. I'm wrong, but I don't know who else to pick. And I think Eddie coming out and surprising everyone would be fun. Watch later on today. I'll find out that he's still 6 months away from returning. But let's go with Eddie Kingston to show up, surprise everybody. And let's hope that Tony Khan says, let's give the fans one of the best shows they've ever fucking seen. And I think having Eddie win would put that on the right track. Excuse me. All right, so let's go on to the next match. I have down the Hurt Syndicate defending their tag team championships, AEW tag team titles, against the Patriarchy and Jet Speed. This one is not hard to predict. I feel like a triple threat or a three-way scenario does protect the Hurt Syndicate if they did want to take the titles off of them, because you could pin Mike Bailey, Kevin Knight, Nick Wayne. Any of those guys could take the pin. Any three of them could take the pin to change the tag team titles if you wanted to. So this was originally just a tag match, and I think the patriarchy was added later, right? So that's suspicious. That makes me think, since they kind of just added these guys late, that maybe they are there to eat a pin and help switch the championships. There's the issue going on between Nick Wayne and Christian that will definitely eventually result in a match. I don't see any reason to have Edge come back here or Adam Copeland come back here in this match in any way. So even though they've added a third team, I'm still going to predict the Hurt Syndicate to win. I think they're going to retain here. It would be a weird place for them to drop the championships. They may want to protect Shelton and Bobby when it's time to drop those belts. They may want them to lose in a triple threat scenario, but I just don't think changing the titles here is what they're going to do. So I'm going to go with Hurt Syndicate to retain. We've got Adam Cole defending his AEW TNT Championship against Kyle Fletcher. The TNT title, oh my, how the mighty has fallen. That belt used to be a very fun belt in this company. We saw some amazing champions, some amazing rivalries, some amazing title changes, multiple champions. And ever since I feel like Jack Perry won the belt, and then it got moved to Daniel Garcia, it has really just been an unimportant title. It's been virtually invisible when it used to be, the second most important title in the company, and now you kind of forget it's there. So I think one way to bring that championship back to life is to put it on the extremely flamboyant and loud and boisterous Kyle Fletcher. I'm predicting Kyle Fletcher to take the title from Adam Cole. I like Adam Cole, but ever since his long time off and his injury, he doesn't feel like himself. He doesn't feel like the Adam Cole we knew 10 years ago, that's for sure. And I'm a big fan of Adam Cole. I really, really hope, he can find his way back to the top of the card. He's already got the second most important title in the company, technically. So maybe he can get back in the main event scene one day. But I feel like he's got to drop that belt here to Kyle Fletcher. So I'm picking Kyle Fletcher to win the TNT Championship from Adam Cole. Here's an interesting one. The Young Bucks taking on Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland a week ago on Dynamite. They added the stipulation to this match because the Bucks, Swerve and Ospreay want the Bucks to put their EVP titles on the line. And of course, they're like, why the fuck would we do that? So Ospreay decides to sweeten the pot without consulting Swerve, apparently, and says, hey, if you guys beat us, then neither one of us can challenge for the World Championship for 1 year. That was enough to make the Bucks agree to the stipulation. So it's the Bucks' EVP titles on the line versus Ospreay and Swerve being able to defend being able to challenge for the championship for a year. This is an interesting storyline, and I think if it's booked right, it can totally work. And we talked about this on the podcast on Saturday. I said, for the fans that are worried about this, oh my God, they're going to do that. They're going to have Swerve and Ospreay lose. That's going to be so stupid. Well, think about it. I don't know if it's going to be a year before either of these guys are world champion anyway. So if it's really not in the cards for Ospreay to be a world champion yet, and it's not in the cards for Swerve to win back that world championship yet, because they have a big run planned for Hangman Page, possibly a big run planned for Darby Allin, it could be a year before either of these guys are even going to be in the title picture anyway. They might be getting some title matches. That's going to suck. If they lose here, that could take away from a great Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland championship match that they might ordinarily lose. We're not going to be able to see them in the main event battling for a championship, but I'm thinking more along the lines of winning the championship, not just challenging for it. So I feel like that's an interesting story and one that could work. It's not going to sabotage Ospreay and Swerve at all because, like I said, when either one of those two win the title again, either one of those two win the title, I feel like it's going to be about a year from now anyway. So if there's really no plans for them to win the championship for a year, you can make the stipulation and it wouldn't be too bad. You just got to make sure that you do enough with those two guys during the course of the next year that they don't fall out of contention type of thing. So I'm going to predict the Young Bucks to beat Swerve Strickland and Ospreay. I feel like Ospreay is going to lose the match for his team. We could see some interference here. The Bucks are going to have some help. Otherwise, I feel like Swerve and Ospreay would fucking kill them. But I think that Ospreay might do something, or something's going to happen. Ospreay is going to take the pin. And because Swerve obviously wasn't consulted about this, he's going to blame Ospreay. That could cause, a few. We've already seen a match between the two. Maybe Swerve goes back to being a heel, gets that edge back. That's possible. Another thing that might be fun is if they lose this match, I could see Will Ospreay coming out on Dynamite. That's fine, bruv. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work my ass off all year. I'm going to formulate the greatest 1 year long win-loss record that you've ever seen. I mean, that's going to be tough to do since Bill Goldberg went 7,000-0 when he was in WCW. But maybe Ospreay uses that as motivation and he cuts this big, passionate promo. You're going to see the best Will Ospreay you've ever seen. And I'm going to create and build up such an impressive win-loss record that Tony Khan is not going to have any choice but to give me a championship match on the day that 1 year stipulation ends. However, you could extend that a little bit to All In London. If they're going back to Wembley next year, which apparently they are, that's where you do Ospreay. That's where you do Will Ospreay winning the title. So, they could also do something. I think it would be fun if Ospreay and Swerve, might feud for a little while. It also might be kind of cool to see Swerve, maybe go back to being a heel, especially since he's going to be very upset at Will Ospreay. Or he can stay a babyface. And perhaps the two of them, I said Will Ospreay would come out and say, I'm going to have the best year of my life. That way, when this 1 year is over, Tony Khan's going to have no choice but to give me a championship match immediately. I'm going to spend the next year building myself up to where as soon as that 1 year stip is over, I'm in. I get a championship match. Well, what if Swerve Strickland says, hey, I want to do the same thing. I'm in the same boat as you. I can't get a championship match for a year either. And since you're the one that lost the match for us, I feel like I should get the first shot a year from now. So what if the two of them have some sort of like friendly competition for the next year, me and you, Swerve, whoever has after 1 year from now, 1 year from this moment, when they cut this promo on Dynamite next week, 1 year from this moment, between the two of us, whoever has the best record gets the championship match at All In. That's not going to work because they do the Owen. And the winner of that gets the championship shot at All In. So, maybe one of them is going to have to win the Owen. But I feel like not being able to challenge for the championship for a year isn't going to be the end of the world, because I feel like Ospreay and Swerve, if they're challenging for the title, a lot of fans are going to want to see them win it. So at least this way, it takes away the disappointment if they were to lose. And a year, in wrestling terms these days really isn't that long. Back when I was a kid, a year was a lifetime. But now I feel like a year goes by pretty quick. We have a million fucking pay-per-views. There's so much going on. Wrestlers always have stuff to do. And as long as Ospreay and Swerve can stay in compelling storylines and situations and angles and matches for the next 12 months, this is really going to be fine. And it really sets up Will Ospreay winning the championship next year at All In. And that's... if you're ever going to put the title on Ospreay and you're going to make him a world champion in the company, and believe me, he will be a world champion in AEW, I feel like that's the building you got to do it in. Or that's the city, at least, you have to do it in, is over there. So I think next year that'll be him. And then maybe Swerve is the one that takes it from him. And it's a long build, that's going to take a long time for all that story to be told. And Swerve, I've got Ospreay taking the pin here against the Bucks, right? So then if Ospreay gets the match next year at All In, if he wins the Owen, he goes into All In to win the championship, and Swerve is still salty about, hey, you were the one that fucking lost, asshole. You owe me a title shot. I'm in this situation because of your ass, and now you're the champion? I don't think so, son. And then Swerve is the one that ends up taking the belt off of Will Ospreay, next year at some point. So they might not be able to challenge for the championship for a year, but I have a feeling there's a good chance both of them could be world champion in 2026. Especially if you have like a short little reign for Ospreay, wins it All In, drops it at Full Gear or something like that. We'll see. But I'm going to go with the Young Bucks to beat Ospreay and Swerve and prevent both of them from challenging for the world title for a year. And that could kickstart a pretty intense rivalry between the two. So we will see. All right, here's a big one. Toni Storm defending her AEW Women's Championship against Mercedes Moné, who, of course, has creative control. That's been some fun discourse online all week long, hasn't it? You've got this pocket of fans, and it's the same fan. It's every single fan that thinks this way is the same. If you are a weak and insecure and enraged little bitch boy with anger management issues, you 100% think Mercedes Moné has creative control. It doesn't matter. You don't have any evidence. You have no sources. You have no credibility. You have no nothing. These are the things they tell themselves, and they are insistent on it because their little bitch boy brains can't comprehend the idea of someone winning this much unless they have creative control. But these same exact fans also think that Tony Khan is an inept booker who is going around and paying other promotions to allow Mercedes to win the championship or win their championships. So which is it? If Tony Khan is such a bad booker and having Mercedes win all the time is a bad booking decision, why is Mercedes being blamed for this? It's so funny to watch them try to reconcile their already existing hate for Tony Khan with their newfound hate for Mercedes Moné and try to have it make sense in their brain. And they look like idiots. They can't decide who to blame. They hate them both so much. Mercedes has creative control, but Tony Khan is the one making all these decisions. Which the fuck is it? Who's doing it? Tony Khan or Mercedes Moné? She doesn't have creative control. She doesn't have creative control, you absolute fucking dumb asses. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way now. She has no creative control. You need to be able to be a little bit more open-minded. They are so unbelievably simple and one-dimensional. Oh my God, all those belts, she's got creative control. You guys don't even know what the fuck that means. So shut up. She's got no creative control. And they don't really care if she does or not. They just want to hate her. There's a very specific type of male wrestling fan that does not like Mercedes Moné. They are all the same. They all voted for the same guy, too. They are very, very weird. It's a parasocial relationship that they have with a lot of these people, whether it be loving them or hating them. These people don't know they exist, but they allow their hate for them to define who they are. And all week long, it's all I've seen, all over. Mercedes got creative control. She's calling her own shots. I'm like, you guys are too fucking stupid to even respond to. So it's just like, God damn, like this is why our world is stupid. Oh, my God. So Mercedes does not have creative control. For those who say she does, you are wrong. You have no evidence. You have no sources. All you have is your own enraged little bitch brain. That's all you have. That's what you're going on. You're telling yourself that she has creative control and insisting on it and quadrupling down when anyone challenges you. That is the absolute definition of a weak and insecure man. And that's what they all are. You don't see any women talking this way about Mercedes Moné. It's all lonely, enraged men with anger management issues. They are the ones that have this deep-rooted hatred for her, and it's very weird. It's very weird. It's summer. Get some sunlight. Smell the fresh air. Touch the grass. Get laid. Do anything than what you're doing right now because it's embarrassing. Mercedes does not have creative control. I'm picking Toni Storm to defeat Mercedes Moné in this match. Why? Because I think it would be silly and pointless for Mercedes Moné to win the AEW World Championship while she's already the TBS champion. Forget the other 72 titles that she's got wrapped around her head. I'm talking about that championship specifically. She's now held it. I don't know how long she's held it. When did she win the TBS title? It's got to be over a year, right? How long did Jade Cargill hold it? I feel like at this point, you should have Mercedes beat Jade Cargill's record because nobody's ever going to beat that record again, and Mercedes is almost there. Help me out. Hit me with the stat there in the chat. When did she win the TBS title? I feel like the best thing to do for Mercedes is to have her beat Jade Cargill's record and then lose it to somebody that can really help elevate them or launch them. Like Athena is sitting right there too. You know, that she's already had a match with Mercedes Moné. Athena was the one I thought was going to take the TBS championship from Mercedes Moné. And as we are doing these predictions right now, oh, fuck. Can I change my pick? Can I change my pick for the women's gauntlet to Athena? No, maybe not. I'm keeping Megan Bain. So I still think Athena needs to be on this fucking show, though. So I feel like the best thing to do with Mercedes is to have her break Jade Cargill's record. Okay, Double or Nothing 2024. How long? Okay, so now I got another question for you. How long did Jade Cargill hold it? How far away is Mercedes from Jade's record? You guys want to do some research in the chat for me? Help me out with that. Hit me with that. Because that's what I would do if I'm Tony Khan with Mercedes. She's held that championship for so long, that TBS title. It would be an amazing letdown if she ended up forfeiting that title. I think fans are stupid who think Mercedes Moné has creative control. However, if she were to win the AEW world title from one of the most over stars in the entire industry right now, and then just vacate the championship that she's held for over a year, it's supposed to be a big deal when she loses that, but she's already going to be taking a loss. If she takes a loss here, she's going to get that loss done, and she's going to retain all of her championships. So I feel like the last thing Tony Khan should do is to have one woman hold the TBS and the World Championship, because you are already in a situation in your company where you are struggling to give the women an appropriate amount of time on each show. And now you've got one woman monopolizing both belts. I don't care about the 75 indie belts that she has. I don't care about those. I just think for having the TBS and the the TBS and the world title, that is going to put you in a position to have to vacate the TBS championship. And she's been champion so long, you want to see her lose that the proper way. So that would mean that she does have two big losses coming up if she's going to lose to Toni Storm here and then drop the TBS title down the road, but she can't win forever. And I think that if she won this championship, I'm not saying it's out of the question. She could very well win the AEW title, but I feel like that would put them in a tight spot on what to do with the TBS. And, and then what's going to happen? Would she defend the TBS title while she's the AEW World Champion and then lose the TBS title while she's the AEW World Champion? That's not going to happen. She's going to have to relinquish it. She's going to have to vacate it. It wouldn't be that weird, Nobody said Asuka had creative control in NXT. How long did she go undefeated for? 8 years? And she didn't even drop the NXT title, right? She relinquished it. She never lost that championship. She's still the NXT Women's Champion right now, Asuka. That was 10 years ago. So it's not out of the question that Mercedes would just relinquish the TBS title, but I think that would suck. I think with Asuka, there might have been an injury in there that might help sway that decision. But with Mercedes, you would actually be doing it to do it. And then what, you're going to have a tournament? This company already has 16 tournaments a year, which I like, but I don't need another one. The Continental Classic and the Owen and all that stuff gives me all I need, tournament-wise, out of AEW. I don't need a tournament just to do it for the TBS Championship. I want to see Mercedes drop that title to someone else. That's how you do it. So her winning here doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me based on the go-home segment that we saw on Wednesday. Nobody really got the upper hand there. I think Tony went to put Mercedes in her own finisher, and Mercedes scooted away. But prior to that, Mercedes has gotten the upper hand on Tony more than once. So I feel not super confident, but relatively confident that Toni Storm will beat Mercedes Moné and retain the championship. There is a possibility that maybe they want to protect these women. These are not only the two top women in the company, but possibly two top women in the world. You've got a lot of great women's wrestlers like at the top of both companies. Your Tonys, your Mercedes, your Ripleys, your Ios, and across the entire business, I think Toni Storm is one of the best characters and the most over characters, and her commitment to that role is second to none. I feel like she deserves it every bit as much, if not more so, as Mercedes Moné. And that's what I would do. I would have Toni Storm retain here. Not only am I predicting Toni Storm to retain, I'm rooting for her to retain. I don't have this hatred for Mercedes Moné. I don't want to see her win here, but I'm not stupid enough to think that she has creative control, and it's caused me to spend 70% of my life hating her and telling everybody how much I hate her. That's weird as fuck. So I got nothing against Mercedes Moné at all, but I don't want to see her win here. I think it would be a mistake. And like I said earlier, all in, this card is dependent on the outcomes. It doesn't matter how many of these matches are 5-star matches and how much the crowd goes nuts and this is awesome and holy shit and all that stuff. Does not matter. If you have Mercedes beating Tony and Moxley retaining, you are going to implode everything. So outcome is everything here. I think Mercedes and Mox winning would result in I'm done with AEW tweets. I think Tony and Hangman winning would result in this is where the best wrestle tweets. So Tony Khan needs to think about that. Tony Storm is who he needs to put over here. I'm rooting for her. Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. This, of course, is the big AEW Unified Championship match. This is going to unify Kenny's International Championship with Okada's Continental Classic Championship. This one should be good. You know, when you think about the classics that these two guys have had at your Wrestle Kingdoms, at your Dominions, at these just insane matches that boggles the mind. You know, you show this match to a non-wrestling fan, they're going to understand why you like this form of entertainment. These matches were so good. Can they match what they've done in the past? Probably not. Kenny, admittedly, does not have much left in the tank in terms of his in-ring career. He had the battle with diverticulitis not long ago. He's getting a little older. So is Okada. But I think both men are not going to look like the Kenny and Okada that we've seen recently. I think they're going to resemble more of what we've seen in the past. I think they're going to get 30 to 40 to 45 minutes for this one, and I really think it's going to be good. I really think it would be foolish to try to say this is going to be as good, if not better than that Dominion match or whatever it was, but I still think this one is going to deliver, and Tony Khan has wanted this match for a long time. He's wanted Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada on American soil, and now we're getting it in a stadium in Texas in 95-degree heat or whatever the fuck it's going to be, but that match is happening now, and we're getting it here in the States, and I'm excited just for the spectacle of it, like what it's going to mean, like to see these guys in there for what could be the final time. Aside from a tag or maybe a rematch or something down the road, which I'm not even convinced they're going to have, this could be it for them. One final chapter between these two, and if they deliver a high-quality match here, I really kind of think this is where you should put it to bed. You know, because when you have matches as good as what they've had in the past, and then you try to recreate it several years later when they're older, and one of them is near the end of his career, you know, you run the risk of maybe damaging, you know, the legacy of those previous matches. I don't think that's going to happen with these guys. I don't think Kenny is so broken down that he can't deliver. He absolutely can. So can Okada. And I think we're going to see a match that very closely resembles what the two of them were doing in Japan. And in the end, I'm going to go Kenny Omega to beat Okada and unify the championships and become the new AEW Unified Champion. Really wish he was becoming the AEW Intercontinental title holder. And they had the old IC title design made for this belt. That would have been so fun. But it's going to be the Unified Championship, and I'm predicting Kenny Omega to beat Okada to become the Unified Champion. All right, this is it. This is it. Jon Moxley defending his AEW World Championship against Hangman Adam Page. Man, what a ride it was to get here. We still don't know, you know, when Moxley won the championship back at Wrestle Dream, what the end game or what Tony Khan wanted his end game to be. Is it going to be here at All In, or is it going to be the year later at Wrestle Dream again? But the more and more we've drawn closer to this event and everything we've seen with Hangman Page and Moxley, this is different than when it was Moxley against Samoa Joe or Moxley against Copeland. You know, I remember after, it was a Revolution that Moxley faced Copeland. I remember so many fans mad. Oh my God, Moxley won. I'm like, wait a second. I know we're all tired of Moxley's run here, but come on. Copeland as the world champion would have been a better option. You know, here it's all about the opponent. Every single time Moxley has faced somebody up until now, I'm like, no, it's probably not time yet. He's going to retain. I've predicted him to retain in every single title defense he's had, because it felt like Tony Khan is building towards something else. And then it got a little bit confusing with All In when you had the Owen and Hangman came out on top of that. and now it's starting to make a little bit of sense. A lot of people had Ospreay pegged for that, but if you want Ospreay to become world champion, in his home country, you wait and do it next year at All In, and then you can tie in that stipulation that is going to take him out of the title picture for a year. It's perfect. So Hangman Page wound up winning the Owen, and I'm like, okay, Hangman is great, but he already has a long history with Jon Moxley, and when Moxley began his title run, Hangman isn't the person I had in my head to dethrone him. However, now that we've gotten to this point, Hangman is one of the faces of the company. He's one of the most over guys. You've got this trio of very, very strong baby faces right now with Hangman, Ospreay, and Swerve. That's why I think one of them, like Swerve, has to go heel soon. And you add Kenny Omega to that list as well, and even Tony on the women's side. So you got some really, really, huge baby faces over there right now. And Hangman Page, a lot of people feel like he really is the face, and he's the most overall over guy, in the company. Fans love him, and he's a tremendous character, and he's gone through a lot. He's gone through a lot of character growth, especially his relationship with Swerve Strickland and everything surrounding those guys. And Hangman has said in character that he does not want Swerve Strickland's help. He didn't really say anything about anybody else, but he says, I just couldn't accept help from him. If he came down and helped me win the title, I'd be upset about it. Maybe that's the story they're going to tell. Maybe Swerve is the final nail in the coffin, and then Hangman Page has to celebrate with the championship, but he's not that happy about it because he had to accept help from Swerve. But then Swerve is not going to be an immediate threat because if him and Ospreay lose to the Bucks, Swerve can't even challenge Hangman. So that could be interesting if they went in that direction, and Hangman, had to struggle with his emotions on winning the championship, but I wouldn't do it like that. I would have Sting or Darby Allin be that Undertaker at WrestleMania 40 who delivers the final blow to Moxley or helps get Hangman over that edge. So when Hangman wins, it can be extremely celebratory, like when Sting won the title on when Luger won the title on Nitro, or Sting at Starrcade, or, some of those situations, or Angle after 9/11, or any sort of big title win where everybody comes in, Bret at WrestleMania 10, hoists you up on their shoulders, Cody at WrestleMania 40. That type of thing is absolutely what they need to do here. Now, this is a Texas death match, so we know it's going to be overbooked to hell, but that's what we want out of this. We want overbooking. This is a match that is set up to be this way. We knew this was going to happen at WrestleMania 40 as well, because Texas Deathmatch and Bloodline rules are essentially the same thing. So we knew we were going to get a lot of interference, and that's what you want. You don't want that on every show and every single main event and every single title match, but when you do it, sometimes it can really be a lot of fun, and I think it really embodies what pro wrestling is all about. Just off-the-charts bonkersness to where everything can happen. You got to constantly be looking over your shoulder. You never know who's going to be coming out next. It's surprise after surprise after surprise. And we like that. And we went into WrestleMania 41 this year, I should say, thinking we were going to get that. And we got that asshole Travis Scott walking down to the ring for 36 minutes to that fucking song. That was all we got. WrestleMania 40 was much better. This, I feel like, is set up to be the same thing, to where you get all sorts of people coming out. You're going to get the Ops. You're going to get... you'll get Shibata. You will get Joe. You will get Hobbs. Hook is still messing around. That's another reason why I'm curious if they're going to add one more match to this. Are the Ops going to defend those trios titles? Do you think they could stick that match on All In somewhere and have Hook come out and cost them? I feel like whenever Hook comes back, he's going to do something to fuck over the Ops, right? So you're going to see all three of the Ops out there. You'll probably see the Bucks show up. You'll probably see Ospreay and Swerve show up. And you're going to have all the Death Riders out there. So, off the top of my head, that's what? 3, 5, 7, plus the Death Riders, you're talking 10. That's a minimum of 10 people interfering here. And I think you could even see more than that. You could even have other people showing up here if you really, really wanted to. So you're going to have a minimum, in my opinion, of 10 people doing run-ins here. And with all of the confusion, and the momentum swinging a couple times, at some points, Hangman and his crew have got the upper hand. Other times it's the Bucks and it's the Death Riders. And they find themselves, everybody's brawling, everybody's taking their bumps, they've gone through tables, they're all kind of canceled out, and it's down to Hangman, being held by the Bucks for Moxley to deliver a barbed wire baseball bat to the face or whatever he's going to do, Hangman Page in for the final time. Lights go out. They come back on. It's Sting standing behind Moxley, just like Undertaker was standing behind The Rock or whatever happened at WrestleMania 40. And Sting delivers a shot to Hangman Page, but then the Bucks jump and swarm Sting. Dun, 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 dun. And then you get the Darby music. He skateboards down, disposes of everybody, smacks all 3 of those guys or 10 of those guys with his skateboard, and allows Hangman to kind of recover. Darby hits Moxley right in the face with the skateboard. He's bloody. He's standing in the middle of the ring, wobbling, just completely wobbling all by himself. And in comes Hangman with the buckshot, takes him down, gets the win. Crowd explodes. The roof flies off of Globe Life Field, even though there's only going to be 20,000 people in the a very large arena. They'll still manage to blow the roof off, I think, with a finish like that. So something along those lines with all of that drama. And if you're worried about AEW being able to deliver, kind of a bonkers, crazy book match like that, they absolutely can. All you got to do is look at Anarchy in the Arena and to see how good they are at a lot of chaos. I arguably think they might be better at this than WWE. Just the constant chaos. And I think that's what we're going to see in this Texas Death Match. I think it's going to be bloody and it's going to be extremely chaotic. But in the end, it has to be Hangman Page winning the championship. It has to be. And that's who I'm picking. Hangman Page to defeat Jon Moxley to win the AEW championship. If this match happens late in the card or in the middle of the card, they are going to spoil what's going to happen. Like if Tony Khan, for some reason, and I'm not saying that Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada is a main event anywhere in the world. I just don't think it should be a main event on this particular show. And if Tony Khan wants it to be, that means Jon Moxley is retaining. The only way that you survive is if Hangman Page retains. Because if Hangman Page wins the title. Because if Moxley retains, and he did so in the middle of the card, you're going to turn off the audience to the rest of the show. I really think it's that important. I think fans have been patient enough with this. And if you remember, they were pissed all the way back in February. They were so over Moxley, they wanted Adam fucking Copeland to win the title. So I don't think the wrestling fans, especially the male wrestling fans, when you consider how unbalanced they all are, I don't think they're going to be able to handle it. They're not going to be able to handle it. The AEW sickos are going to freak the way MAGA's freaking on Trump right now. And then the AEW haters are going to be like, see, we told you they suck. That's just not what you want. You don't want that narrative of just disappointment surrounding your company on the same weekend when WWE's running 3 shows. So Tony Khan, regardless of what he wants to do, he needs to do the right thing here and put Hangman Page over. And if he was telling himself 2 months ago, no, I'm going to wait for Darby to come back. Yeah, I'm going to have him win the men's gauntlet and then challenge it in Washington or wherever the hell he's from, that can't happen. And I said this last week on the podcast. I said, what could Tony Khan or AEW do with Moxley dropping the title that would be better than what they have set up here at All In Texas? I can't see All Out or Wrestle Dream or any other location for Moxley dropping the title to be any bigger than what you could set up here. He's in there with arguably the most over male wrestler on the roster right now in AEW, Hangman Page, arguably. So he's the one who has to win. Hangman Page already owns a victory over Jon Moxley. Oh, thank you. He already owns a victory over Moxley in a Texas Death Match a couple of years ago at Revolution. So that could play a role here. Maybe they want to give Moxley that win back. But, Moxley always comes off as someone, even though he has been, a 4-time AEW World Champion right now, he's not someone who is really hell-bent on being the champion, I feel like Moxley should be able to see the writing on the wall, too. And if any of these wrestlers have any pull with Tony Khan, being like, Tony, I got to drop this thing at All In. If I retain, they're going to freak. You know, like it's got to be Hangman. We got to put him over. It's got to be Hangman. And Tony Khan's like, no, I have this better idea for All In. No, dude. Or for All Out or Wrestle Dream. No, it's got to be this. We have to do it here. Moxley and Hangman needs to be the main event. Hangman needs to win. And I usually don't like using that language. I cannot stand when some smarky-ass wrestling goes, so-and-so needs to win. Fuck off. But I'm going to be that smarky wrestling fan today. I'm saying this. Hangman Page needs to win. He needs to win. I know I'm talking like a 2012 fucking smark, but that's the way I feel. He has to win here. And this entire pay-per-view hinges on the outcomes of two specific matches. If Mercedes and Moxley walk out victorious, you are going to do damage to your company. Where if you flip it, I think they're going to gain some momentum on WWE. That's how big the swing is. That's how drastic that swing would be, simply by changing the outcome of two matches. You can turn this into the day that AEW died or the day that AEW started turning the tables on the big dogs. I mean, it really could come down to that. That's how important I feel like this is. So I'm predicting Hangman Page to beat Jon Moxley and win the AEW championship, and we're going to be watching that together on Saturday. Don't forget about that. We are going to be here doing a watch-along for All In. We're going to be here all day, 4 hours long, man. It's going to be nuts. And then I'm going to take a break, watch Saturday night's main event, and we're going to be back here to talk about that too. Saturday's going to be crazy. And I'm really looking forward to All In. I'm looking forward to this All In more than the previous two. I am. I think the card is interesting, and I really think with a couple of those big matches, especially the big three, Tony Mercedes, Kenny Okada, and Mox and Hangman, those are going to be the ones that are going to deliver there, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to thank Garrett Osborne for the $2. They did add the Ops versus Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, and Gabe Kidd for the AEW Trios titles. They did, huh? I wasn't aware of that. I didn't see that match earlier on when I was on AEW's website even, and I somehow did not catch that. Yeah, I don't even have that on here. Yeah, so on AEW's actual website, they don't have that match listed. So that's why I didn't have it on here. But I feel like we are going to get that. Did they announce it on their socials? Anyway, it's going to be the Ops defending against Claudio, Yuta, and Gabe Kidd for the AEW Trios title. If that match happens, and those titles are on the line, which it sounds like they will be, I predict Hook to cost the Ops the Trios championships. And that would keep some championships in the Death Riders. If Moxley loses, we'll see. If Hangman loses, we riot. Yes, that could actually be the case. Before we get into Saturday night's main event, let me knock out a few super chats here, and then we will get into what's next. Thanks for being here, everybody. Do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button if you don't mind. And next up, we're going to predict what looks to be 4 matches on Saturday night's main event. And that's going to bring our total match prediction up to 21 matches for this stream here. Previously had 19. I wasn't aware of Solo and Jimmy, and I wasn't aware of the Ops against those guys either. All right, let's knock out some super chats here. Ryan Adams, appreciate the 5, bro. What's up, Greg? Listening to this podcast while painting the new house. You're getting some painting. Fixer-upper, huh? Awesome. That is so much fun. I hope you are staying cool. It's got to be hot up there. Even up there in Minnesota, don't get eaten by skeeters if you got the windows open. But yeah, good luck on the new house, my friend. Happy to hear from you as always. We got J Boba 28 with $5. All In is the only show I'm interested in this entire weekend. Hope AEW carries this momentum and we see more disgruntled WWE stars sign with AEW. I'd rather see more disgruntled WWE fans watch AEW than to see disgruntled stars sign with AEW, because in AEW, talent is not their problem. Any issues they have never comes down to talent. They have the talent. Because Tony Khan, the fans who hate them, they kind of forget that Tony Khan can compete financially with anybody. Usually it's not like that. You know, when there's wrestling companies that are out of balance, usually one can spend more. This is a situation where it's different. AEW or WWE's infinitely bigger than AEW, but AEW can match them in free agents. So, you know, Tony Khan is the one making the decisions, where it's, you know, probably TKO and stuff who has to approve salaries and whatnot. If Tony Khan wants to throw $10 million at somebody, he can. He has the absolute money to do that. So it's not talent. I don't think AEW needs more talent. I think they need more fans, and there needs to be a little bit more of a balance. Now, they are the number two, the clear-cut number two, the biggest number two we have had in this country since WCW. They've had people that said the company wasn't going to make it, and they were wrong. The company even got a media rights deal renewed with Warner Brothers Discovery. These are all very big milestones and accomplishments that should be recognized and celebrated. But they are still, even with that, a very distant number two to WWE. So I think it's a matter of evening out the fan bases maybe a little bit more, because WWE, we've seen, Triple H, you got to remember, he learned from Vince. So when it comes to lazy booking, involvement with celebrities, bare minimum effort type of stuff. I feel like the Goldberg and Gunther match at Saturday Night's Main Event, they did the bare minimum. I feel like the build to Evolution, it was the bare minimum. Everything is still very formulaic. And, Triple H learned under Vince, and he will probably eventually turn into Vince. When it's all done, he's going to do a lot of Vince-like things. He's already starting to do that, especially when it comes to the laziness and the sucking off of every fucking celebrity you can come into contact with. Apparently, Jelly Roll is going to have an opponent or have a match at SummerSlam. I don't hate that, really. I mean, celebrities have been involved every year. It just depends on who it is. I'd rather have Jelly Roll than Snooki, but it just kind of depends. Every situation is different. I don't hate every celebrity involvement in WWE, but I do hate most of them, and I could do without most of them, but sometimes they find one that's somewhat entertaining. And that's all I ask for, is to be entertained. You can have a whole nother conversation about, celebrities taking spots away from wrestlers, but we've been having that conversation for years, ever since the very first WrestleMania. How do you think this shit all started? By celebrities getting in the ring. So I'm careful with how I speak about celebrities, but you think about Vince and how he did things, and how, Triple H was a prodigy of him. He learned under Vince, and he's probably going to slowly and surely morph into Vince when it's all said and done anyway. He's already on the road there. But I'd rather have AEW gain more fans than gain more talent, because I think they have the talent. Let's see who else is here. Chris Ludek, appreciate the $10, my friend. Greg, you and Solo Monster are on the same page. That's not uncommon for us. This will be their version, as Jason said, of the Avengers Endgame. I wish I saw that movie, so I don't get that reference. I didn't watch any of that shit. That's the thing with the glove, right? I don't know any of that stuff. And it'll have a ton of run-ins with Hangman winning. Also, yes, Hook will screw over the Ops. Yeah, so the Ops, I guess, are going to have a match. I just didn't see that anywhere when I was formulating my notes today. So I do predict that Hook will screw them over. And yeah, it's got to be... It's got to be just an over-the-top, fun match. I think it should go down as AEW's most memorable World Championship victory. I really do, because you have a champion right now in Moxley that does draw a lot of comparisons to '97 Hogan. When you just had a champion that, don't get me wrong, was a good heel and everything, but fans were just fucking sick of him holding that championship. And when it finally came off of him, it was just pure jubilation. And I think AEW has really set themselves up here for a situation like that. And I keep saying it over and over again. They're not going to be able to do better than this, because that's what it should all be about. If Tony Khan wants this grand, epic title loss for Moxley, you're not going to have a better opportunity than here. Not with Darby, not with Danielson, not with Swerve, not with Ospreay. Right here with Hangman. This is where you do it. For the love of fucking God, Tony Khan. All right, I think that knocks it out for most of the supers there. I do want to say hello to Big Glenn and King Aza, and I think I saw Amato up in here, JT, Spartan Sprinkles. Oh yeah, there you are, Amato. We got Janine in the house. We got Chris. We got Goodfella. Max Pokebra, I saw you in here somewhere. Oh, there you go, Max. Yeah, on the last event of before the year is up, Swerve and Ospreay have a number one contenders match. Something like that would be fun. But I feel like the end game here, if they're going to have Ospreay not be able to challenge for a year, then he has to win the championship next year in London, because that's where All In is going to be, right? So I feel like next year at All In would be where Ospreay would win, which would mean he's got to win the Owen to do that. So maybe that's what I would do. Next year's Owen final, Swerve, Ospreay. That's what you do. That's what you do. Next year's Owen Hart Cup final for the men will be Swerve Strickland versus Will Ospreay. Hell yeah, I'm into that. Okay, let's move on to Saturday night's main event. This one is live on Saturday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. I'm assuming that All In will end around 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. Hopefully, if it runs over 4 hours, then we're going to be running right into Saturday night's main event when it's over. And if Tony Khan wanted to be an asshole back and have this show run really, really long to where it overlaps, I think that would be silly. You got to get this done in 4 hours, and I don't think it would be a good idea to have it extend beyond 4 hours. I think 4 hours needs to be the time for All In, which would have it end 1 hour before Saturday night's main event. I could come up here and do a review of All In between. I just don't think there'll be enough time. We're not going to have enough time to get it done in 45 minutes before Saturday night's main event airs. So when the watch-along is done, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to watch Saturday night's main event, and then we'll be back here later on Saturday night for a review. We have 4 matches for this match announced. Sorry, I don't have a match graphic for this first one because I wasn't aware of it. But Solo Sikoa is defending his United States Championship against Jimmy Uso on Saturday. That match was just made today by SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis, or yesterday or whenever it was. And I got to go Solo. He just won the championship. He's got Talatonga now and Shorta Tonga, and Tonga Loa is back, and maybe Tonga is coming back as well. Whatever the case may be, Solo just won the championship. He's not going to drop it here to Jimmy Uso, so I'm going to go Solo Sikoa to retain. We've got Randy Orton taking on Drew McIntyre. This is kind of a tough one as well because Randy Orton, neither one of these guys I want to see lose, but Randy Orton is Randy Orton, and he can certainly lose. So can Drew McIntyre. Wouldn't change anything for either one of them. But I think I got to go Drew. I think. Again, you could have some interference here. You could have a Cody run-in or influence in this match in some way if you wanted to. I don't think it would be just a straight-up clean win for Drew. So I feel like we could see some sort of interference, but it could go the other way too. You could have some interference and have Orton win. But I'm going to go McIntyre to beat Randy Orton here. I'm hesitant about that. I kind of want to pick Randy Orton to win, to be honest. This is a really hard one. I don't know. I know it's Saturday night's main event. It doesn't matter. It might even wind up being a disqualification when it's all said and done, but I'm really split on this. I'm going to change my... I'm trying to think. I feel like Randy Orton is on the road to becoming a heel here. So, he hesitated with Cody in Saudi Arabia. Maybe he hesitates here again. He loses, and that's enough to have him snap out of it saying, what the fuck is wrong with me? I'm the Viper. I'm the Legend Killer. I punt people's wives' heads off their shoulders, much less my opponent. Why am I hesitating here? What's wrong with me? Yeah, I think that makes more sense. I'm going to go with Drew McIntyre to win this match, even though I'm not confident about that prediction. But yeah, Drew it is. Seth Rollins will be taking on LA Knight. You could have LA Knight win here. WWE likes to do that when people have the briefcase. I feel like if this match was at SummerSlam, maybe LA Knight might have a better chance to win, but it would be a weird match for him to win with all of that backup Seth Rollins has. So I just don't see it happening. I see it being a relatively simple type of finish here, and I'm going to go Seth Rollins to beat LA Knight. LA Knight, I still think is over enough to where I wouldn't completely give up on him in a world title run, maybe a short one or a quick one or something like that. So scoring some sort of victory here over Seth if he did have help from, let's say, CM Punk. We've also had Roman Reigns being rumored to come back, or pretty much guaranteed to come back for SummerSlam. He's going to have some new stupid nickname or initials. Now it's like OTC1 or something. I don't know. R2D2, who fucking knows? So Roman could come back, but I think it might be Punk to set up the big blow-off at SummerSlam between Rollins and Punk. But I can't see Rollins losing both. I feel like if Rollins and Punk set up a match at SummerSlam, Punk will win. So Seth can't lose here and then lose at Punk at SummerSlam. as well, and then win the championship. I've also been ruling out Seth Rollins for a title match because he's got the briefcase. But he might wind up getting a title shot. It might be him against Gunther. Maybe he gets a title shot on night 1 and then he cashes in on Cena or Cody on night 2. I still feel like Seth cashing in for the other championship is a possibility. It's not a guarantee he's going to take that world title on Raw. He's already held that. So I feel like getting the other championship, maybe getting that other championship to Raw. Maybe they want to swap all 3 championships. Put the world stuff over on SmackDown and the WWE stuff over on Raw for a change. Move everybody or move all the belts. I still feel like something like that could go down at the end of the day whenever Seth Rollins chooses to cash in. But I'm going to go Seth Rollins to still beat LA Knight here. I just feel like it would be weird if Knight got the win with all of that backup Seth has, even with CM Punk perhaps interfering. I feel like Rollins will get the win here. And I still think he could possibly set up something with CM Punk or with Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, because Roman Reigns' name was brought up on Monday by Rollins and by Paul Heyman. So you could do Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker. That would actually be quite awesome if that's the match we got. Reigns versus Breaker, Seth versus Punk, and then maybe you do LA Knight versus Bronson Reed at SummerSlam. Maybe Bronson, has something to do with Seth winning, more than Breaker does, and Knight then targets him, and we've got a Bronson Reed and LA Knight feud, something like that. Maybe. We'll see. We did hear that Knight was going to be feuding with Seth this summer, so, for that feud to only be 3 weeks and then end right at Saturday night's main event and be done, that feels a little weird too. It could result in a rematch at SummerSlam, but I feel like Rollins and Punk or Rollins and Roman would be the bigger match to do there. So anyway, Seth Rollins over LA Knight. And now it is time for the big one. Gunther defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Bill Goldberg in Goldberg's retirement match. Now, a lot of fans have got some wild ideas for this. I feel like none of that's going to happen unless... one thing I've been pretty adamant about, and I admittedly didn't think all the way through, is I've said this is Saturday night's main event. We've already seen that WWE is making these things a little bit better than what they were doing, a few years back when they briefly resurrected it and we had Evander Holyfield in there and stuff. But ultimately, nothing major is going to happen on these shows. I don't think we're going to see a major title change or anything like that. However, All In is happening just an hour before this show goes live. So if AEW has some crazy main event where they crown Hangman Page in this glorious moment, WWE has a chance here to do the same thing if they wanted. If they wanted to have Goldberg win and then Rollins come in and cash in or something like that, have Rollins execute a cash in here and Rollins wins the championship, I feel like that could do some damage to your Hangman Page wins the AEW championship headlines. That could do some damage to that. If WWE runs some sort of a big angle here on NBC, no less, with a big title change here happening and Rollins getting the win, they could do that, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be Gunther defeating Goldberg in what can't be any more than a 5-minute match. I really am worried that this match is even going to happen. I'm worried about an Undertaker-Goldberg type of situation. I'm worried about Goldberg blowing out his leg, getting in the ring, or immediately when the bell rings, something happens and he pops a knee or he goes down or he can't finish the match. And at that point, you got to just turn that whole thing into a storyline where Goldberg realizes that his body is just broken on him and he just sacrifices himself to Gunther. And that's how he goes out. But I feel like if Goldberg can execute this match properly and he can stay on his feet and he doesn't fuck it up and we actually get a match out of these two, it's got to be Gunther beating Goldberg. And when it's all said and done, it's got to be Gunther showing Goldberg some respect. Now, this could be achieved a couple of different ways. You could just have Gunther simply beating Goldberg, and then after the match, Goldberg realizes that his time is done. There are now wrestlers bigger, stronger, and better than me. It is time for me to pass that torch. And he endorses Gunther, shakes his hand, and says, "You're the man now." And Gunther, in gratitude, thanks Goldberg back and leaves the ring and allows Goldberg to have the ring to say goodbye to the fans. You could do it that way. Another way you could do it is have Gunther win, but Goldberg kind of takes him to the limit a little bit. Like, Gunther wins, but he's like, God damn, I cannot believe how far that 60-year-old man pushed me. He nearly beat me, and he's fucking 58. That is mind-blowing to me. And he's hurting a little bit. But ultimately, he beats Goldberg. Goldberg now rolls to the outside of the ring, and Gunther is in there on his knees with the belt. The music is playing, but man, he is beaten up, and his ribs are a mess because he took like 3 or 4 spears. So he's selling the ribs. He can't breathe, but he won. And then Seth Rollins' music hits. Rollins comes out to cash in, and he's in the ring, and he's got the briefcase, and he's ready to hand it to the referee and take out Gunther, who's reeling from the match. And then before the referee can ring the bell, in comes Goldberg with a spear to Seth Rollins. Goldberg and Gunther fight off Rollins, Breakker, and Reed. They fight them off together. Goldberg saves Gunther from getting cashed in on. Gunther thanks him, leaves, and Goldberg gets the ring to say goodbye. I feel like a scenario like one of those two is what they need to do here. Nothing crazy. You don't have to get batshit nuts and have Gunther or Goldberg beat Gunther and Seth Rollins cash in on him, or Goldberg beat Gunther, show up on Raw the next night with the title, or on Monday night with the title, and Seth cashes in there. None of that. I've heard all of those scenarios. They've all been thrown at me, and I don't like any of them. I like mine. So that's what I think should happen here. Gunther beats Goldberg. The two have a handshake, some sort of show of mutual respect, whether you get there by just Gunther appreciating the limit that Goldberg took him to, or if you have Rollins and crew coming to cash in and Goldberg helps Gunther. Something like that to get to that handshake and to get to Goldberg closing the show by himself in the ring with his family in front of the audience. That's how you do it, and that's the best way, I think, to get Goldberg cheered, is for him to go out on his back. Because I have a feeling when he comes to the ring, even in Atlanta, he might hear some boos from that audience. Fans don't really give a fuck about Goldberg. I sure as shit don't. I want to get this match over with. But if you want to give Goldberg the best possible send-off, when WWE and Goldberg himself both fucked up his own send-off after WrestleMania 33, when he lost to Brock Lesnar, and what a perfect moment that would have been for him to end it all when he brought his kid in the ring and all of that. He poured his heart out to the audience. I got over Goldberg. Like, I forgave him for all the harsher feelings I had for him back when he was in WCW and his WWE run in 03 and 04. I didn't like him then. And to see this, him come back and not overstay his welcome, came back, beat Brock, won the title, dropped the title, all within a very short window of a few months. He didn't overstay his welcome. And I was happy to see him go. And I felt like I could always remember Goldberg fondly now because of that. And then it was ruined. And then he came back. Then he came back again. Then he beat The Fiend. And I haven't given a single solitary fuck about him ever since. Maybe they have a chance here to help me get over some of this dislike I have for Goldberg by having him do the right fucking thing here and just get beat. He's been beat. Undertaker beat him. Roman Reigns beat him. He's been beat a lot of times. But I mean, beat him. Let's beat him for good, and that's the end of it. And we know that after this, we don't have to worry about seeing him again. Gunther, all the way on Saturday night. All right, now it is time for Evolution. So Evolution is going to be this Sunday night. This is going to be a 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start time for this. So we will be here Sunday night watching this together for a watch along, when we will stick around for a review. Let's start with the Women's Battle Royal. I feel like this is very similar to the gauntlet matches in AEW. I don't know for sure who's going to win this because I'm not sure if I know all of the competitors in this. I think I did see a graphic. We do know Nikki Bella will be in this. And I know Stephanie Vaquer is going to be in this. Now, I would not have Nikki Bella win. I really hope she doesn't. I'm also hoping that maybe we get an extra surprise entrant here or two or something like that. This is a battle royal, so it's not like a Royal Rumble where you come in one at a time. So all the women are going to have to be in there at the same time and start at the same time. And So that's going to be tough to do all 20 entrances there. I don't know how that's going to work. They're probably going to be airing a video package for the audience at home while all 20 of these women are making their entrances to the ring. I guess that's the way it's going to go down. Back in the day, back in the 80s when I was a kid, everybody just walked out to the ring with no music together. And they kind of did that at the WrestleMania, that WrestleMania where they had all that Divas Battle Royal, right? They all kind of came down at once. So this will probably be an individual thing here. And I feel like I got to go, because the winner of this, by the way, the winner of this match gets a title shot at Clash in Paris. I think Stephanie Vaquer would be a good option here to win this. And if you booked Stephanie Vaquer and Rhea Ripley at Clash in Paris, my God, part of me thinks that's a match you want to save for WrestleMania, but also part of me thinks that could be pretty fun. So I'm going to go Stephanie Vaquer to win the Women's Battle Royal. I'm not super confident about that. All I know is I don't want it to be Nikki Bella. I think Stephanie would be much more fun. Check this one out. We've got that big 4-way Women's Tag Team Championship match. And when I pulled the match graphic off of WWE.com last night, check out what it says right there. Evolution tonight. It's tonight, guys. Actually, Evolution started 1 minute ago. No, it didn't. Yeah, it did. 1 minute ago, Evolution started. So we can watch it right now. Apparently, WWE thinks Evolution is tonight. I thought that was kind of funny that I caught them sleeping there, putting their tonight graphic up instead of their this Sunday graphic up. But I saved it, thought I'd put it up here on the stream. So we've got the tag team champions, women's tag team champions, Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. They're going to be defending their championships in a 4-way against Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, Sol Ruca and Zarya, and the Kabukis. Now, the Kabuki Warriors were just given this match on Monday Night Raw because Natalya and Maxine are already in the Battle Royal, so they couldn't really do a qualifier there. Alexa and Charlotte had to win a match to get in. The Kabukis were just given the match after Kairi Sane beat Roxanne Perez on Monday night, right? So I feel like that rules out the Kabukis for winning the tag team titles back here. And also, we've got Sol Ruca and Zarya in this match, and I think it's really cool that Sol Ruca and Charlotte are going to be sharing a ring, that they are going to be in the same match together, and they might mix it up a little bit. First time I ever laid eyes on the gorgeous Sol Ruca and saw what she can do and her look and her vibe and her presence, I said, that girl right there is going to be the real deal. And when she comes face-to-face with Charlotte one day, Charlotte thinks she can do acrobatic shit. I don't know if she can as good as Sol Ruca can. You know, Charlotte was a gymnast and whatnot, but I feel like Sol Ruca's move. Charlotte's got those like bony ass legs when she does her moonsaults. They kind of stick out all funny and stuff. Like Sol Ruca just seems so much more smoother, of an athlete than Charlotte. Charlotte's great and everything. And by the way, I did read the article in the Tribune about Charlotte and what she said and she wrote in there. That was a really, really great read. And I'm really hoping it'll start changing the narrative on Charlotte. I really do. And makes people understand and realize that there really is a human being under there. And I thought that was really good. So if anybody of you have not checked that out, it is an excellent read. It's long, but it's a good read. Check out that. It was in some Tribune article that was released a couple days ago. It was really good. So, Charlotte and Sol Ruca, mixing it up. I always said that, for as big and decorated as Charlotte is, I think Sol Ruca could be the face of that company one day. And to see yesterday in there with tomorrow, Sol Ruca and Charlotte is going to be pretty cool, I think, on Sunday. In the end, though, I don't see Roxanne and Raquel dropping the belts. Roxanne just lost on Monday night to Kairi Sane. I don't think that losing the belts here is what they're going to do with everything going on in the Judgment Day. We just saw Finn Balor with that shin-eating grin, polishing up all his belts on Monday night. He's very happy to have all that gold, and I think keeping Roxanne and Raquel tag team champions helps play in better whenever Liv Morgan is able to come back. Now, they might not still be champs by the time she gets back, but I at least think for this match that they have to retain. Raquel and Roxanne both have been losing a lot lately. Raquel lost to Rhea Ripley recently. Roxanne's dropped a couple of matches to Kairi Sane. So I think they're going to retain here and get the victory. I don't think it's quite time for Charlotte and Alexa Bliss quite yet. I really like their pairing. I like what they're doing so far, and I think there's a lot more to do still before you put the titles on them. Eventually, I think Charlotte and Alexa probably will win the tag team titles, but I think they need to kind of continue their story, their kind of reluctant partnership for a little while longer, and I think it's something that Charlotte desperately needs. So I'm going to keep that going, and I'm going to predict Raquel and Roxanne to retain the tag team titles. We've got Jade Cargill taking on Naomi. This throws a little bit of a monkey wrench in my plans because I was kind of thinking here that Jade Cargill, when she gets the championship match at SummerSlam against Tiffany Stratton, that she may very well win the championship and get cashed in on by Naomi. I still feel like that's a really big possibility, and that should happen. If it does happen, I think that Jade should get another victory here. Jade beat Naomi at WrestleMania, and that surprised me. So if Naomi wins here, I'm going to think that my idea of her cashing in successfully at SummerSlam probably isn't going to happen if she beats Jade here. I worry. But she's still going to be Money in the Bank briefcase holder. I just feel like SummerSlam is where it should happen. So I feel like Jade needs to get another victory here. And I think what might happen is we might get a run-in from Bianca Belair. I know it's a hand injury, but I don't know the details on the hand injury. So I don't know how long she's been out, how long her recovery time is expected to be, or when they expect her back. But if it's just a hand, I feel like if you're not cleared, you could at least do a run-in or something and have a presence at Evolution. And if Bianca runs in here or does something to help Jade Cargill win, that's going to make me very happy because that's just going to, reiterate what I believe for SummerSlam, and that is Naomi is going to walk out of SummerSlam as the women's champion. So I'm going to pick Jade Cargill to beat Naomi here. I hope she does, because the more Naomi loses, the more I think there's a good chance she's going to cash in at SummerSlam. And I would really like to see Jade win the title. I would, only to be cashed in on. That's what I hope happens. I don't want Naomi to cash in and make it a triple threat. And I don't want Tiffany to retain and be cashed in on Naomi. I want Jade to win the championship and be cashed in on by Naomi. And her winning here would lend a lot of evidence to that. So I'm rooting for Jade Cargill and picking Jade Cargill to defeat Naomi at Evolution. We've got Becky Lynch defending her Intercontinental Championship against Lyra Valkyria and Bayley. They've been telling this story for quite a while. We knew it was going to culminate in a triple threat match between these three. This has been painfully obvious ever since WrestleMania, to be honest. And every match that they've done and every segment they've been doing between these three has been pretty predictable. Last Monday's segment was not that great between the three, even though I like all three. But at the end of the day, I got to go Becky Lynch to retain the championship here. I'd like to see Lyra win it back. I'd like to see Bayley win it, but I might want to save Bayley winning the IC title for SummerSlam. You book Bayley and Becky or whatever you got to do there. I feel like you could still have one more match between Bayley and Lyra, and then the winner faces Becky at SummerSlam, maybe in a stip. I don't know, something like that. Whatever they're going to do at SummerSlam, I'm not completely sure. There's a very good chance that Becky Lynch could have a completely different opponent at SummerSlam. But for this match, I feel like Becky's got to retain. So I'm going to predict Becky Lynch to retain her Intercontinental title, defeating Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. The NXT Championship is also on the line. We've got JC Jane defending against Jordynne Grace. I feel like Blake Monroe will be the next person to win the NXT Championship. I think they're going to fast-track her to the title. I feel like Blake beating JC is a better match than Jordynne, because Jordynne and Blake, I think, are kind of on the same page right now in NXT a little bit. They're both baby faces. I think, right? Yeah. Blake Monroe, I think, is a baby face. I'm not even sure, to be honest. I just don't see a title change here. I don't see Jordynne Grace winning the title. I feel like she's going to have to win the NXT title, but maybe not. They might just move her straight to the main roster. I don't feel like she needs to win it here. So I'm going to pick JC Jane to retain over Jordynne Grace, even though I watch very little NXT. WWE Women's Championship on the line. Tiffy time. Tiffany Stratton defending against Trish Stratus. Tiffy all the way here. This is a weird situation where Io and Tiffany got to pick their Evolution opponents. Tiffany has selected Trish Stratus. I love Trish. She's going to go down as my favorite women's wrestler of all time, but I don't think she needs to be winning the championship here at this stage of her life or career. We could see a lot of other stuff here. We could see a potential Naomi tease for a cash-in. I think that's possible. Ultimately, I don't think she's going to do it. I mean, she could. Now that I think about it, I still feel like SummerSlam would be the better option for that. But she could cash in here. Here's what I will say about Evolution and SummerSlam. With the two women's matches that are going to happen on both shows, I think we're going to get one title change on each. So one women's world title is going to change hands at Evolution. The other one is going to change hands at SummerSlam. So I feel like Tiffany Stratton has got to beat Trish Stratus here, because I think Tiffany is going to be the one losing her title potentially twice, or no, just once, to Jade, who will then lose it to Naomi. That's what I feel like the better option is there. You could have Trish win, or you could have Tiffany win and Naomi cash in here, but that would change the outcome of who I think is going to win the main event. So you could have Naomi cash in right here. Originally, I did have Naomi cashing in at Evolution, but I had her cashing in on Jade. I had her cashing in on Tiffany and defending against Jade. But now that there's a one-on-one match between Naomi, they could still do my original idea. My original idea was for Jade Cargill to cash in on Tiffany and then defend against Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair in a triple threat. You could still do that, especially if Bianca interferes earlier on against or in the Jade and Naomi match. That idea that I had months back could still happen. But I'm going to go with Tiffany Stratton to retain here and for there to be no cash in. And maybe something happens in Naomi and Jade. That might be why they're putting this match on the undercard. Maybe something happens here to Naomi. Remember I mentioned the same thing about Damian Priest a few times? Like, look, if he's not going to cash in, if they don't want him to cash in, they got to do something storyline-wise to get him out of the building. One time he was like barred from the building. Another time Sami Zayn came and stole the briefcase. Remember when they were doing that shit? So I feel like the same thing could be true here for Jade and Naomi in the undercard. Jade could win or Bianca could do a run-in. Whatever happens, maybe Naomi either gets hurt or flees the building. Maybe Bianca is chasing her down and Naomi hops in a speeding car and drives away. Or they do something to get her out of the picture to where she's not a threat in either one of these championship matches. I feel like that's what they might do here. Naomi could definitely cash in, but I still feel like saving the cash in on Jade is what you want to do. So Tiffany Stratton will retain over Trish Stratus, in my opinion. Leaving us with the main event, Io Sky defending her World Women's Championship against Rhea Ripley in what will likely be the main event. I have talked a lot about this match. A lot of fans are starting to get a little irritated with Rhea Ripley. Same type of, instability over there on the Mercedes Moné end of things in AEW. You're kind of getting that with Rhea Ripley. You get the Rhea Hogan stuff from people who weren't even alive when, Hogan was anywhere near his heyday. You get a lot of those comparisons. A lot of fans feel, she's just going to win the title here. And I will admit, they have not done a good job with Io Sky's title win. Ever since beating Rhea Ripley and then retaining at WrestleMania, she hasn't done shit. She hasn't been defending against, an array of opponents and successfully retaining her title, every couple of weeks on TV. She's been largely only visible in backstage segments and, a couple of small in-ring promos, but she has not been featured the way a world champion should be featured. So we've got SummerSlam coming up, 2-night event in MetLife. I had mentioned last week that, hey, maybe you want Rhea Ripley to win the title in front of MetLife instead of in front of 5,000 people at Evolution, but you also might want Rhea Ripley going in to SummerSlam as champion. Either way, if Rhea Ripley wins here, you're just going to hear a lot of complaints from the fan. Again, and blah, 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 just all that. It's like they're going to type it before they type it. So we're going to have to deal with that. And I feel like if Triple H wants to wake up, and have Io Sky retain again and put her in a big match at SummerSlam, then I'm all fine and good with that. But I feel like since this is the main event, since it's Evolution, and since I don't have any other championships changing hands, I feel like it's going to be Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's going to beat Io Sky. Io Sky's already got a couple of victories over Rhea Ripley. For Ripley to lose again would feel a little weird, to be honest, and I think she's going to win the championship. Maybe it's possible that we get some sort of a swerve here. Maybe the Kabuki Warriors run in and help Io Sky retain against Rhea Ripley, and they all turn heel and they form Kabuki Control. Go from Damage Control to Kabuki Warriors. I wouldn't mind seeing, without an extra person there like Dakota Kai, I wouldn't mind seeing Asuka and Kairi and Io together, as an actual faction and as an actual unit. I would be fine with that. So you could do that. You could have the Kabukis come down and Asuka sprays the mist in Ripley's face and they swarm her and take her down. And then Ripley is like, all right, now it's me and you, Io Sky, at SummerSlam in a cage match or something to keep the other members out, and Ripley wins there. But I think it would be weird for Ripley to win the title at SummerSlam if I already have Naomi winning the title at SummerSlam in a cash-in. So you could flip the script. You could have Naomi cash in at Evolution and have Ripley winning the championship at SummerSlam against a heel Io Sky, who is now teaming up with heel Asuka and heel Kairi. But all three of those women are pretty lovable baby faces. A lot of fans don't want to cheer or don't want to boo Asuka. And I feel like most fans would prefer to cheer Io, Kairi, and Asuka than boo them. So I'm going to stick with my guns here, and I feel like it might just be a straight-ass clean win for the Ripster, Rhea Ripley, to win back her world championship and defeat Io Sky in the main event of Evolution. Yeah, that's what I've got. And then from there, who does she defend against at SummerSlam? Might be Io Sky again. Could be somebody else, but that would put the title on Rhea Ripley. And like I said, if Stephanie Vaquer wins that Battle Royal, you got Stephanie and Rhea now set for Clash in Paris. And that ain't too shabby. So not that Stephanie versus Io would be any worse. It would be arguably better, perhaps. But I think fans, Stephanie and Ripley, my God, that's going to be it. When that happens, I'm not sure if the male audience is going to be able to handle themselves. I know I might not be able to. So there you go. Should we do a quick rundown, quick recap of all of these matches? Here we go. Here we go from the beginning. AEW All In. I've got Megan Bayne winning the women's gauntlet match. I have Eddie Kingston winning the men's gauntlet match. I have the Hurt Syndicate retaining their tag team titles over the Patriarchy and Jet Speed. I have Kyle Fletcher defeating Adam Cole to win the TNT Championship. I have the Young Bucks defeating Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland in that tag match, which will cause Swerve and Ospreay to be unable to challenge for a world title for a year. I've got Toni Storm successfully retaining over Mercedes Moné, Kenny Omega to defeat Kazuchika Okada to unify the Continental and International Championships, and Hangman Page to defeat Jon Moxley to win the AEW World Championship. On Saturday night's main event, I've got Solo Sikoa retaining the U.S. title, defeating Jimmy Uso. I've got Drew McIntyre defeating Randy Orton, Seth Rollins defeating LA Knight, and Gunther defeating Goldberg. At WWE Evolution, I've got Stephanie Vaquer winning the Women's Battle Royal, Roxanne and Raquel to retain their women's tag team titles, Jade Cargill over Naomi, Becky Lynch to retain the IC title over Lyra and Bayley, JC Jane to retain the NXT title over Jordan Grace, Tiffany Stratton to defend successfully her WWE Women's Championship over Trish Stratus, and Rhea Ripley to win the WWE Women's World Championship from Io Sky. And apparently also, I should have mentioned, we have the Ops defending their trios titles, and I have them losing with the help from Hook. I should have mentioned that earlier when talking about the All-In card. So the only matches I'm probably missing now are whatever they're going to add to the 0 hour, and there's even a chance one more gets tacked on to Saturday night's main event, especially if Goldberg and Gunther is only going to be 5 minutes long. So I feel like we get 1 or 2 matches, but we have predicted 21 matches today. Wow, that's a lot. It's going to be a weekend, guys. I'm looking forward to it. Let me go back here to the chat before I get out of here and knock out any more supers that might be coming our way. Chris, I got yours. Garrett, I got yours. I want to thank the Juliet, who is hooking up Intimidator with a channel membership. Thank you so much for that, the Juliet. Zane G, thanks for the 5. Maybe no leak return for Dakota Kai either at Evolution or SummerSlam. Oh, maybe. Yeah, they could bring, you mean WWE bringing back Dakota Kai for Evolution or SummerSlam? I'd be into that. Sure. JT, it is too early for Rhea and Stephanie. I kind of agree. I feel like that should be saved for WrestleMania. But, man, that would be a match, though. Every now and then we get a big match earlier than we think. You know, I kind of think it's too early as well. But I also think Clash in Paris, you know, a crowd like that would just be incredible for those two. Juliet, yes, thank you. I'm aware of Solo and Jimmy. I have already predicted that. I've got Solo winning and retaining the championship. No, Juliet, I've not seen the poster art for Omega and Okada. I will check it out, though. Yeah, Io Sky's got no love. You're exactly right. She's probably going to get less love when she drops the title at Evolution. I would like to think that, you know, maybe everybody just retains their titles here and they just phone in this show and we, you know, regroup and go into SummerSlam. But they've done largely nothing with Io. You're coming up on your second biggest show of the year in MetLife, big stadium show, 2-night event. You know, you might want your biggest female star going into that as champion. That's my only thought. But if I'm wrong about that, I got no issue. If Io Sky wins, I will be perfectly fine with that. I think the Ripley-Hogan discussions are fucking stupid, but that doesn't mean I'm rooting for Ripley. It just means that I think those discussions are stupid. And I think fans are getting too caught up and worrying about and getting too agitated about people winning and then just starting to make their own conclusions. I don't like that. I think that's weak. But that doesn't mean I want Ripley to win every fucking match. She should lose now and then. I just don't think she's going to lose here. I think she's going to beat Io Sky and win the Women's Championship. That's going to be it for me, man. Grace has to win, but Monroe, why does Grace have to win? Yeah, I got JC Jane retaining 100%. I don't have Grace winning. Don't have Grace winning there. Zane, did I get yours? I missed another chat? I thought I got all yours. Oh, yeah, I did. Sorry. I see it now. Thanks for the 5. According to Hogan, he's had creative control. Yeah, Hogan's never used it, I'm sure. And I'm a virgin. Jesus Christ. Yeah, right, Hogan. He's never used it. Give me a break. Yeah, and the client list doesn't exist, right? Of course. You know that picture with multiple pictures of Trump and Epstein hanging out? You think you saw them? No, you didn't. They don't exist. Neither does creative control. I forgot to mention that, Juliet. Or no, I don't think I did. I think I did mention it earlier when talking about Saturday night's main event. I could see a return of Roman Reigns here. It's going to have to be in the Seth and LA Knight match, I would think. Well, it could be in the Goldberg and Gunther match, I guess, but I feel like Roman is going to come back and probably have something to do with Seth and his crew since they've been mentioning him. So I think Punk or Roman could show up at Saturday night's main event. Maybe both of them. Maybe it's Punk and Roman. Punk, Roman, and Raw. Oh, we already did that. Could they do the rematch? Could they do the rematch? They could. It could be Punk, Rollins, and Roman again in a triple threat at SummerSlam. WrestleMania rematch. Both main events. That would be wild, huh? It's Cody and Cena, and then the same 2 main events at WrestleMania. You redo them at SummerSlam. We might not want that. I feel like Roman Reigns versus Braun Breaker would be way, way more fun. And I could sit and talk to you guys about this for another hour, but I got to get out of here because I got to head to work. So you guys enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Yachiro, good to see you. Hello and goodbye. And we will be here on Saturday. Don't forget, all damn day long, we're going to be here for All In. So we'll be doing a watch along. We're going to be going live at noon Pacific. That's what time I got to go live, 3 Eastern. So we'll be up here nice and early on Saturday to watch AEW All In. We'll be back here later to review Saturday night's main event. And then we'll be here the next day to watch along and review Evolution. It's going to be a wild, wild weekend. Eat your Wheaties, get your rest, bring your Red Bull. You guys have a great rest of your evening, and I will be catching you on Saturday afternoon. Peace.